Hey guys, Tom here. Welcome back to another episode of the Commute, where I drive to invisible work because I don't have a job. At least at the time of this recording. But this is just a pilot season, just to test out the concept of me documenting my commute while talking about stuff so that I can keep myself from being bored during a commute and you guys can be entertained. So yeah, let's start with today's topic. Today's topic is least to most likely dream cars that I'll own within my lifetime, however long that may be, 50 years, 90 years, 100 years, I don't know what it's going to be. We're going to start from least to most likely. Actually, no, let's start from most to least likely. So, the most likely dream car I'll ever own, at the number one spot, is the BMW M3 E46. That should surprise no one. I love the M3 E46. It's not massively expensive. It's not super rare. And I want to build that into like a GTR homage car. That is going to happen just within like the year. So, huzzah. In the number two slot, we've got the Audi RS3. That's a dream car to me now because I think the engine in that car is super cool. It looks like a great compact daily. It's not super huge. It's not massively fast, but still not slow. I think that's a great package as well. Then, of course, in the number three slot, the reason why it's in number three is because it's more expensive and a bit rare. The R34 GTR, specifically the M-Spec NER. So, rarer, more expensive, this, that, and the other. But given my dedication and how much I love the car, still more likely than most other cars. In the number four slot, we've got a Type 42 generation V10 Audi R8. Not a car I want to keep if I ever get one, but definitely a car I'd love to own because I think it's fantastic. In the number five slot, we've got an S550 Mustang. It could be a GT350. It could be, just a 5.0 Coyote with a Kenny Bell supercharger, or it could be a 7.3 liter Godzilla engine swap. Any number of those things. Just the S550 I really like. In the number six slot, we've got the Lamborghini Gallardo with the 5-liter V10, and I would twin turbo that and wide body it and give it a big wing, and I would love that. That would be so much fun because, in my opinion, the 5.0 V10 from the early Gallardos, the first-gen Gallardos, will always sound better than the 5.2s of the later Gallardos and the Huracans and the Audi R8s. I just think that sounds more like a classic supercar to me. That high revving, screaming, almost Formula One engine note is amazing. I love it. I wish it was more of a thing today. You can get that in modern like V12s and stuff. Like I think the Ferrari F12 has got that sound, but I don't know if I really like the Ferrari F12 as a car I would buy. In the number seven slot, we've got the Lamborghini Huracan. Now there are various versions of the Huracan that I like. I mean, obviously the standard is very cool, but I prefer the Performante because I like the center exit exhaust. I like the Super Trofeo, the race car, with that exhaust and that body kit. But the one I like the most right now, even though I haven't actually seen it yet, is the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Omologato. I really look forward to when that car comes out, and I hope by the time it comes out, or not long after, I'm able to get one because that looks like a fun package. Anyways, moving on. After that, in the number 8 slot, even though it's not as expensive, we've got a Targa Top 880 Supra. And the reason why this is so far up the list to being less likely than the other cars is because I'm just less interested in buying it as well. You know, it's not as expensive, but I'm also less interested in buying a Supra compared to how interested I am in buying a Huracan or a Gallardo or an R8. In the number 9 slot, we've got a 1JZ swapped FD RX-7. I think that would be a really cool project car. That would be the sort of car that would be the sort of car that I'd want to have as a project car, that I'd want to have actual personal hands-on, like, work put into it. Like, it would be my equivalent of David Patterson's 240SX. I want to have, like, put in some actual personal wrench time and actually help build it myself, you know? Like, I want to be able to say, I built this. You know, most of my cars I'm going to give to more qualified people, but an FD-RX-7 with a 1JZ, I think would be a lot of fun. In the number 10 slot, we've got the Lamborghini Aventador. Now, the reason why this is so high up the list is, for one, these cars are expensive. They're V12s, and I prefer the V10 cars to the V12s for the most part, but they've got the cool doors and all this sort of stuff. I like the Aventador. I don't know which version of the Aventador I'd want to get. The LB700, the early model ones, you know, those would probably be fairly affordable, actually, compared to an SVJ or an SV. You know, Super Veloce Aventadors are really just kind of appreciating in value. So, I don't know. The Super Veloce or the Super Veloce Yota, I'm not really sure which version I'd want. But it's something to think about, because I do like the Aventador. In the number 11 slot, we've got the R35 GTR. Again, not a wildly expensive car, but it's a car I like, but I'm just not that interested in buying one, okay? If I got one, I'd do some crazy stuff with it. No lie. No lie, I would do some insane stuff with it. But there are so many other cars I'd rather own and spend my own money on that I just... It's not something I'd ever really want to do. In the number 12 slot, we've got the McLaren 765 LT. Now, if I was ever in a position to afford it, maybe, but by the time I'm able to afford a McLaren 765 LT, I will have bought most of the cars at the upper part of the list that I'm more likely to want to own. I love the 765, I love the 720S, but I just, you know, it's not... I'm not overly interested in owning it over an R8 or a Huracan or something like that. After that, though, this next car is super high on the list simply because it is a hypercar. It is super expensive. I would love to have this car over a Huracan, an R8, or whatever, an Aventador, but it's usually like at least $1 million to buy one, or like 1.6 million, or sometimes even maybe 2 million. Very expensive, but very cool. The car, I haven't actually said what the car is yet. The car is the McLaren P1. The hybrid hypercar, the one of the hybrid hypercar holy trinity that I love the most. The styling, the sound, the tech, the way the electric motors are used to fill the torque gaps in gear changes and when turbos aren't spooled up. I love it. It's a nerdgasm to me. Because automotive enthusiasts are all just nerds, just like how computer nerds are nerds, and comic book nerds are nerds, and theater nerds are nerds. We're all nerds. We just get to drive around in nice cars and wear sunglasses and pretend we're not nerds. But we're all nerds. After that, you know, in the number 14 slot, you've got the McLaren P1 GTR. Very unlikely for several reasons. It is not street legal, unless if it's got a Lanzante conversion kit, which some do, which is very hard to find. It's a race car. It's like a $3 million car or more, and they're just rare. Less than like 60 were made, I think. I think only 58 P1 GTRs were ever made, which is insane. But then in the number 15 slot, it totally deserves its place at the number 15 slot. Hey, number 15 cars like the blacklist. In the number 15 spot, we've got the Koenigsegg Agera R, or RS, mostly the Agera R. That is the only car that, to me, is slightly cooler than the P1 in any way. Because to me, Koenigsegg's, much like Pagani's and other brands like that, are in a league of their own. They're wild, they're hypercars, they're rolling pieces of art. And, you know, Pagani's definitely rolling pieces of art. Crazy amount of detail and all that sort of stuff, but to me, the Koenigsegg is more insane than the Pagani. I would say Koenigsegg is more about madness than perfection in terms of character. The build quality is perfect in Koenigsegg's. I think that they're well-made machines. Christian von Koenigsegg is a madman, but even so, I love those cars, man. Koenigsegg's. You can't. To me, there's nothing else better. But they're so expensive. Like right now, Draken, the Agera RS, is for sale at Iluso. I think that's how you say it. Ask dealer for price. But I'm willing to bet $3 million, $4 million. Could be $5 million. God knows. Could be any of those things, man. But it's the sort of car that would cost that much, and that's why it's at the 15 slot. I love it. If I had the money, I would buy it. But I don't, which is why it's at the bottom of the list. If I had the money right now, I'd probably put it higher up the list. But yeah, those are the 15 dream cars I have, from most to least likely to be owned in my fleet. So if I start making $1 million a year, you can look forward to an Agera RS, which is not massively likely, but you can at least look forward to the M3 E46, the R34, maybe some basic supercars. Jeez. I think you need to get a new car, dude. It's got a terrible turning circle.